I recently sold my table saw, and with it I gave away my crosscut sled. I didn't figure it would fit my new table saw, so I just gave it to the person who bought my table saw. The problem is I really like having a crosscut sled, and it's like my favorite jig in the shop, so I made this crosscut sled. And I've been really wanting to have a crosscut sled with a micro jig MatchFit system integration in it, so I did. And that's the beauty of woodworking. Make it how you want it. So I just cut out the piece that's going to be the base of my crosscut sled. Next, I've got to cut out the pieces that will be my front fence and my back fence. Those are going to be 2 pieces of 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood laminated together. You may or may not have noticed, but I alternated my clamps facing different directions every other clamp. This helps make even distribution of the clamping force, and it gives you a better chance for things not to slide. So it's a good practice to get into, and I do it on all my glue ups. And with the glue up of the fence done, it's time to move on to making the relief cuts for the dovetail channels on the base. The relief cuts remove some of the material and make it so that the router bit isn't doing all the work. It will help prolong the life of your bit and save you from burning it out. With the dovetail channels routed out, now it's on to setting the fence and setting the runners. I'm not going to do it in that order, and I don't know why I said it in that order. I'm going to actually do the runners and then the fences. I don't really have a good reason for that. I think mostly because I don't want the fences to be in my way while I'm installing the runners. So I do have a reason. So let me tell you how I attached the runners to my sled. I drew a center line across my board, which is in theory where my blade is going to come through when I make my first curve cut. Then I set up my micro jig sled runners in the miter slots so there's zero play, no slop. You don't want any slop. Then I put some washers. You can put some nickels under there. You want to raise it up so that the sled runners are actually flush with the cast iron. Then I put my sled in front of that, and I lined up and made a little mark where the center hole is on each of the runners where the screws go in. And you can have a little bit of play there, and I'll explain how in a second. So make that center line mark, and then mark that line down the length of your board. Once you've marked that line down the length of the board, you're going to want to set up where you want your runners to be. I set mine about 2 inches forward of the center of my blade. So the center of the runner is about 2 inches forward of the center of my blade. And the spacing on the holes in the runners is 4 inches. So I took 4 inches in front of that mark and then 4 inches behind that mark. And that's where I drilled in. I did a 3/8 inch Forstner bit down, and I left a 1/4 inch of material. And then I did a 1/4 inch hole through that. And with the 1/4 inch hole, it actually gives you a little slop side to side, but once you tighten it down, you'll have no slop and it works perfectly. I hope that helps you. It's worked really well for me. I've made a couple of these and used these a few times. They work perfect. With the runners attached, the next thing to do is get the fences attached. The back fence, you can just kind of line up by eye and it's fine. But the front fence, that has to be exactly 90 degrees from the blade. And that takes a little dialing in, so I'll go into that here shortly. So this ended up coming out perfect. I wish I could say this was the first try, but it wasn't. I messed up the other one, and now it's going to be the back fence because it's not nearly as crucial. There's a dado on the bottom side of it. It's going to be fine. It's going to hold it in place just like it normally would, but there's now just a dado underneath it. So I'll figure out a way to plug up the sides of that dado so that there's no issues, but you know, sometimes you just make mistakes. And you learn from the first one, and this one is now perfect. So what I gotta do now is cut off this excess aluminum T-track. Now that the T-track is installed in the fence, we're going to add a slight chamfer on the bottom inside of the fence where the base of the crosscut sled meets with the fence. This allows sawdust and debris to escape, and this is important because if you have buildup there and you put a workpiece up against the fence, it'll cause your cut to become no longer square. We're also going to add a round over to the top where the T-track is so that it's just more comfortable to the touch and you don't get any splinters in your fingers when you're running your hand down the fence. To calibrate and ensure that my front fence is 90 degrees to my blade, or perpendicular, I'm going to use the 5-cut method. I'm not going to explain the 5-cut method because it deserves its own video and a ton of people have already made those videos. So why don't you go check that out if you want to learn how to do that. It's really important to know for making a crosscut sled. Well, that's it. That's my crosscut sled. This has been a huge add to my shop. I've had this design in my head for almost 6 months now, and I'm really glad I finally got to execute it. It just works great. The MatchFit integration is fantastic. It allows me to make cuts without my hand being anywhere near the blade. It allows me to make small tapers or cut angles into pieces that I could do before, but it just wasn't nearly as elegant. So I really hope you enjoyed this build. I hope you're able to find some wisdom from this and learn how to make this on your own. I love having it. I've only had it for a week now, but it's already improved my flow in here. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think that the crosscut sled is the most important jig in any wood shop. If you liked this video, and I hope you did, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a thumbs up and a subscription. And if you already subscribed, hit that notification button. That would be awesome. As always, the tools I used in this build will be down below in the description. And if you had any questions, please let me know down below in the comment section and I'll get back to you very quickly. As always, I appreciate you watching and thank you for stopping by.